And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Kris. And I'm here with Serge, and we're ready to get going. I think we might have a question to tackle today, too, if Kris is up for it.
Oh, I'm sure he is. It's one of the people that watches our YouTube videos. She sent in this. Oh, actually, he sent in this question, and we'll see. I know from reading the question, it's probably a common type experience, but asking about it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I never really thought about it, but once I heard the question, I was like, yeah, I've had that experience too. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think and I talk with a lot of people who meditate, and there is definitely a contrast between that and sleep, and the ease at which we can do those things. So it should be interesting.
cool. Okay, well, why don't we bring him on board and see what happens?
All right.
Now we trust that you are comfortable,
Yes, very
and
comfortable.
we thank you for your consideration.
Thanks as well, Kris.
And before we begin with your question, we would like to address a little something you began chatting with Joseph about, and
Okay.
basically about societal expectations and how people mm, claim those and mold or form their lives and their realities according to those particular expectations. And as you and most people might be aware of, it is an excellent method by which to never fully embrace the self that you are. Even though you might not necessarily know cent percent what that self is, you do have a general sense of who and what you are outside the norms of consensus reality. Even though it might appear elusive, you can still intuitively sense it. The rest of the personality is built up artificially, shored up with varieties of beliefs and all sorts of aspects in order to create a pseudo personality. And that is important. The way society expects its members to behave and to be in the long run is meant to create a certain plateau upon which everyone can agree to one degree or another. That is what the consensus is. And the personality traits and characteristics that are utilized to maintain this consensus do not necessarily allow for too many extremes. This does not mean that this is permanent, but it is adopted as a type of permanent situation. Flexibility is rather uncommon. And if it is allowed, it is still governed by certain strictures, tight rules and regulations. The whole idea in these kinds of situations is for the human being to more or less know and understand its place within that or these cultures. And even though different cultures have different characteristics, different customs, and so on. Overall, the whole of humankind does not have a great amount of variety as such. Yes, this culture is different from that one, but at the same time, you all have so many traits and characteristics in common that would be rather foolish to say, well, you are not part of humanity because of this, because all you share is very intertwined, very interwoven. You are much closer as a family in terms of humankind than otherwise. For instance, you all have certain customs, certain traits, certain beliefs, whether they are familial, communal, societal, national, international. It is very, very widespread, for instance, to think that if you are to be loved, you must definitely show that you are worthy of love. That presents an enormous problem because it discounts the fact that you are born with love. It is the impetus that brought you into the world. It is what gives you life. And if we want to go deeper, we could say that love is what you use to give yourself life. So to say, for instance, that you must show that you are worthy of it goes against your natural spiritual inclination, because you are all worthy of it. And to demand that somehow or other you must prove your worth in those terms makes it very, very difficult. It might even be so difficult it goes counter to your natural inclination for love and grace and creativity and so on and so forth. It is not that different, say, from seeing a homeless person on the street begging for some change so they can get something to eat, to say, well, does he deserve it? And that is a very poignant question. Does any human being deserve it? Absolutely. To insist that somehow or other there is another state of being at play here, it reflects more on the one that is asking, does he deserve it? Because it is extremely judgmental on one hand, condescending on the other, and who knows what else in between. If instead of that, instead of requiring that you must show proof of your worthiness, of you receiving any kind of love, if there was another philosophy that shows and demonstrates that you are born in that state of love and grace, as is everyone else. And this was the basic, fundamental understanding, the platform upon which you operate your reality. Your world would be so radically different from what it is now, you might not recognize it. Because first of all, you would recognize that your own self-worth is all you need to approve and love yourself. You do not need to seek love from others. You do not need to go on a quest for love. We do not need to search for it. It is a natural state of being. In this way, it comes to you. You do not have to hunt for it. You let it come to you, which is a very, very different thing. Very different state of mind. Likely the very opposite of the one upon which your societies operate in the Western world. There are certain Buddhist traditions that actually address this issue. That you are born in that state. So you do not have to hunt nor quest for love or anything related to it, nor self-worth. You are by your own nature worthy of love and worthy of being yourself. So that sets the mood for a very different kind of experience of reality. And if you recognized the sets of beliefs that actually state that you might not be worthy of any form of love, not even self-love, then we suggest, encourage strongly that you begin to put those beliefs to pasture and slowly cultivate your innate sense of love, grace, well-being, creativity, collaboration, and so on and so forth as your natural state, because it is your natural state. You have to remove all the layers. Just like in a piece of coal, you can find the diamond. So you must remove the coal in order to get that diamond. So that diamond is already existing in you. You just have to remove that which covers it. And the only way to remove it is by changing your mindset. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I follow.
So it is something that would definitely be a challenge. And at the same time, the rewards are beyond compare. A rich man, for instance, is not the one who has hoarded the most amount of monies, but he who can look equally at a child, at a mouse, at another human being, and see that inner spark of love equally. That is the richest man in the world. But that philosophy counters many of the Western ideals. The Western ideal, in that sense, is an experiment that you are toying with, trying to understand other values, but it is also taking away from your own innermost core values.
Well, Kris, I know in my example, I've given myself a little experiment in that, I got in a situation where I make less money than I did early on in my career, but yet by changing the beliefs and my feeling tones, I feel richer with quote unquote, less money on a regular
Indeed.
basis.
Indeed. And you might also notice that the need for things is not as prevalent, but the need for sharing has become more pronounced. So that is, again, a different mentality. Now, we believe you have an interesting question.
Yeah, let's go ahead and tackle that too. Perhaps we'll find some connections there. But the question was along the lines of every night we go to sleep and we contact and get into this deeply relaxed state. But yet when we try to go and meditate, and kind of get into the relaxed state or calm state of mind doing that, it can be quite difficult sometimes to relax, but yet, we go to bed so easy. So it's an interesting question. I'm also wondering too, just from working with healing, not all people do go to sleep easily either. Some people really struggle with that to relax even to that level. So, but yeah, I know a lot of us have troubles, getting into that state with meditation versus easily with sleep. So, what's the difference, and what can you say about that?
There are likely a variety of factors about such an issue. One is that when you prepare to, say, head off to sleep, so your body releases all the melatonin and everything else that you need to induce the sleep process. It is anticipated. You have experience, a great deal of experience, sometimes years of experience, practicing that particular state. And it is important. And you may not necessarily always understand, but we would like to say that you do not, how do we want to say this? Basically, you sleep because you need to dream. There is a deep intrinsic biological, psychological, and spiritual need to dream. So your body prepares all the necessary chemicals and hormones necessary to begin to induce that state so that you are better able to transition from the waking state into dream time and engage in those activities that are necessary to enable the continued good health of your physical form, your mental form, and your dream bodies. It is very, very important. As you well know, deprive someone of sleep for an extended period of time, and you might end up with insanity if they survive.
Yep.
So you need sleep so that you can dream. So when you begin the process of meditating in the initial stages, it is very likely that your mind may see that you're not necessarily physically preoccupied. You're not doing the dishes, you're not doing the taxes, you're not at work, you're not mowing the lawn, and so on and so forth. So it more or less says, well, it's daytime. You should be active somewhere. That is preset condition. Since you're not physically occupied, then you become mentally occupied. All manner of strange, stray thoughts seem to find their way in your conscious mind. You might suddenly remember a discussion you had years ago with someone and think of a new way to end it. You might remember, oh, I forgot to do this with my taxes. Oh, I forgot this at work. Oh, I should call my friend, and so on and so forth. Distractions. Because culturally, especially in the Western world, there is a set of habits that says that if you are not productive, if you're not producing, then you might be slacking off. So it is a roundabout way to try and keep you active, as if you are doing something. In this case, likely driving yourself crazy with random thoughts. And it is experienced especially in beginning and even intermediate stages of meditative practices. And the most customary practice is to begin to fight the stray thoughts, to try and double down. And this, of course, increases the concerns in those areas. The methods that could be considered instead is to begin to suggest to your subconscious that you are going to be meditating, say, in about 10 minutes' time. You're going to, whether it is in a chair, you are sitting on the floor, with your back against the wall, whatever it is that you do, it's say in 10, 15 minutes' time. And when you begin to do that, your body will relax and enter a deep state whilst you are still awake. The mind should not go to sleep. The body, however, can deeply relax as if it is just about to enter that hypnagogic or pre-sleep state. You can even relax your heartbeat. Suggest it slow down to a level that is near sleep. But mentally, you will be awake and, most importantly, able to distance or dissociate yourself from your regular everyday thought processes. Stop thinking about what kind of toast you will make tomorrow for breakfast, what kind of coffee you will make, and all of that, by letting those thoughts just come in and out like a breeze through two open windows. It just comes in and goes out. With practice, you can get very good at it. And once you can, and we do not imply that you need to silence your thoughts, because that will never happen. What will happen, however, is that you can suggest to yourself that they can recede into the background so that you can enjoy that inner space, a hollowed state of graceful peace and relaxation, so that you can experience a state of mind where thoughts are no longer your concern. They happen, but you can be detached from them as if they are happening elsewhere, and you have no great concern with their so-called importance, because they do not have that much of an importance. That way, you can recognize yourself as the observer of the thoughts much more easily. You may even add to this that you will be able to observe the string of thoughts as if you are watching a dream unfolding. Not that you are the participant, but you are just the observer. You can bring that similar comprehension or feeling into the meditation and be unconcerned with the flow of thoughts. That way, all the little mind monkeys become quiet. And it allows you to actually get a sense of yourself such that you may never have recognized before. A self that exists outside of all the dictates of society. A self that is sovereign, that is not encumbered by all the daily burdens and worries, that exists for its own sake, for its own worth. So that may rapidly speed up the process of entering a meditative state. And as you get practiced, of course, it will take less and less time to get into it. However, we do not suggest in any way, shape, or form that one kick in those practices while you are on the highway or utilizing sharp tools and instruments. However, who are we to tell how you want to use it? That is a little bit of humor. The main point is just allow the process to develop.
Well, and coming to mind too, just general meditation talk. There are different types of meditation too. I think what you're describing is the concentrative meditation of getting into that inner sanctuary or that relaxed space. There's also the mindfulness meditation of like which potentially you could do while you're driving. Oh, I feel my hands on the wheel, or hey, there's a bird, or just sort of
Indeed,
noticing what's
this
happening.
is this is the how would we say this is primary mindfulness. It is being mindful of your immediate sensory environment, which also is very helpful. But there is a secondary mindful state. We have not discussed this anywhere before. But this secondary mindful state is one where you become mindful of what you allow yourself to observe in your mind. You can choose to direct the flow of your thoughts away from and other thoughts towards you, the kind of thoughts that you want to develop. And these will assist in the reprogramming of your mindset. You want to experience a greater sense of connection with others and the universe. You want to experience a deeper sense of value about life and its meanings. So this is secondary, but mental state of mindfulness. The primary one deals with the physicalization of everything. And that is excellent. You need a place to start. There is no better place than what your senses are sending as signals to you. So your mind says, yes, this is tree, and this is car, and this is computer, and this is desk, and this is cell phone. This is where I am. This is important too. You need to set the stage. But then the second stage of mindfulness predominantly deals with the inner environment, the inner ecology, which has to do with the kinds of thoughts that you're monitoring. That is important. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. And I know, Kris, this is quite a discussion, but I think we're getting towards the end of an episode. So maybe we could continue on in the next one.
Indeed, as you wish, and we will return shortly.
Sounds good. I think we leave a couple cliffhangers, but they'll just have to tune in next time.